Hello, everyone. So I'm with a very, very special guest. We have Joey Torres, the former boxing champion. I have the opportunity to finally interview him. I've been wanting to. You've seen him on Vlad TV, the podcast Sean Atwood, and he is the co founder of the 18th Street Gang. He was incarcerated for over 40 years, spent over 20 of those years alongside Charles Manson, Sirhan Sirhan, Michael Thompson. He founded B.A.D, Boxers Against Drugs. He had celebrity support. He put himself through school with the help of Emmett Smith, and he is with us. Say hello, Joey.
Hello, hello. How's everybody?
So, I want you to introduce yourself. Tell me who Joey is.
Wow, didn't expect that one. I'm uh I'm Joey Torres. I'm 63 years old. I'm the former ABF welterweight champion of the world. I was marked as the next world champion in 1977 when I was a young child and went to see my manager and got in a fight, struggled over a weapon, and my manager died, and I served the next 40 years in prison for my crime that I committed. I did commit the crime, but what do you know when you're from the hood and you're a teen and somebody steals $1 million from you? So I have no excuse for it. I only hope that someday God will forgive me. But I served my 40 years, and I'm just so happy and blessed to be free, and I'm just happy, and I feel like everybody should appreciate every day like it's the last day on earth, because it pretty much is.
True. Amen. So let's get started when you were growing up. How did you even get into boxing?
Um, I'm from the neighborhood called 18th Street. I grew up in Pico and Union in Los Angeles, and you either fought or you either got beat. And I fought, and I could fight good, and I didn't know how good I could until one day I got in a fight, and the police came, and they said, "You're either going to jail or you start the police athletic league and join our boxing program." And I got into boxing with Officer Rex Underwood, and won the junior the Golden Gloves. And then I was blessed in my life to run across one of the greatest fighters of all time, Benny Urquidez, Benny the Jet. I started training with Benny and the family and Bobby Chacon, the former featherweight champion of the world. And I love fighting, and I became good at it, and spent my whole life in the boxing and the full contact karate game.
Wow. So who else did Benny the Jet train?
Oh, wow. Um, He was the wow. I mean, the list goes on. I don't even know where to begin. If you look up Benny Urquidez on YouTube, you'll see him with uh, Jet Li. You'll see him with some of the greatest, some great movies. Roadhouse with Patrick Swayze, and the list goes on. I mean, Benny's one of the greatest fighters of all time, and I was blessed in my life to be under his tutelage my whole childhood.
Wow, that's awesome. So also, what led you to a life of crime, of gangs and all of that?
Well, I don't think it's a that's I don't think it's what led you. I mean, when you're raised in that environment, when you're raised, I was raised with three words that today I still say, and people tell me every day. And I try to tell people this, and they don't understand because they let it pass through their cerebral and they don't even hear it. But where are you from? I mean, where are you from? Are you from 18th Street? Are you from White Fence? Where you from is the words that I live by, and some people die from. And I don't feel it was my life a crime. My life a crime was I was an amateur champion when I was 15 years old. I wasn't a criminal at 15. I was an amateur standout fighter. It's that the environment that I was in was a gang. It was 18th Street, and I love my gang. I love my neighborhood. It's the only thing that I know, and I fought for my gang. And when I would fight at the Olympic Auditorium, it'd be nothing but my neighborhood. We sold out the Olympic Auditorium and the Forum, my neighborhood. So I grew up in the neighborhood, so it's not a life of crime. My instant crime was my crime. My crime was 40 years, and again, I'm just happy to be free talking to you, Miss Nicole. I really am. It's an honor to be on your podcast. I thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Thank you. So, at what age did you start getting into the gang?
I was from 18th Street in 1973 when I was 13.
Wow.
Um, I was 13 years old and I was in kid gloves, junior golden gloves. I was fighting at the Main Street Gym in Los Angeles. I was training with Carlos Zarate, Bobby Chacon, Danny Lopez, and all I knew was going to the Main Street Gym on 5th and Main Street and putting the gloves on. And I knew that every round I did with a world champion, I received $5. So at 13, 14 years old, when you're getting banged on, you're just trying to for the bell to ring because you know, oh, that's another $5. So boxing was for me, it was my life.
Interesting. So, what led you to the crime? What happened?
Well, I had gone to the Main Street Gym, and a great friend of mine, uh, Carlos Palomino, the former welterweight champion of the world, he had mentioned to me that my manager was, he's at the track. He was spending a lot of money that he didn't have, and at that time, I was a young amateur, but I was being endorsed by Fidel Sassoon and a couple other companies as an amateur. Go see your money. So I went to see my manager, and we argued. He pulled a gun out on me. I grabbed the gun. I turned it on him. I shot him once in the shoulder, and he died of shock. I called 911. The police came. I was arrested. I absconded. I was scared. I left. I was arrested a week later, where I was charged with murder. And because of my notoriety, it was on all the newspapers and a special prosecutor. And so at this time, I was 17. So at 17, my 18th birthday was May 4th, 1978. I was charged with the death penalty. And that's a very rude awakening for a 17 who just turned 18-year-old.
Wow. So, did you get sent to juvenile?
Um, as soon as I turned 18, I was sent to LA County Jail. I was charged as an adult with murder. I was looking at 25 years to life. I was told that if I pled guilty, I would serve 5 years in the California Youth Authority. The longest they could hold me was till I was 25. I agreed. I pled guilty. I was sent to the Youth Authority. A new law had came out. It was called Try Juveniles as Adults. I think it's in every state now. And I was the first case. They sent me back to court. They resentenced me. They would not allow me to withdraw my plea bargain. And I was sentenced to 25 years to life, and I was 18 months to go home at the time.
Wow.
So, yeah, that was a rude awakening because I was an 18-year-old kid, 21-year-old kid at the time, and I didn't see freedom till I was 58 years old.
Wow. So, when you were in there, and obviously you had a reputation already for being a boxer. Did people challenge you often because of that?
At first, yes. At first, because people looked at me, they didn't expect me to be a fighter. They thought I was, first off, they thought I was a white boy. And they thought I looked like a lame, so they always took a shot at the title. But, you know, lo and behold, at 63, I could still say I'm undefeated. But, yeah, that was irregular. But after a while, you settle in, and when you're a lifer, it's a different ball game. because there's no difference for me than another inmate. If you want to go home, don't fuck with a lifer. We have nothing to lose.
That's true. Very true. So, in there, you were obviously in jail with some very prominent names. Um, Michael Thompson. He was a leader with the Aryan Brotherhood, and Sirhan Sirhan was the alleged murderer of Robert Kennedy. And then, of course, you had Charles Manson. What was it like being around them? Was it, did you look at them? I mean, obviously, you spent quite a large amount of time with these people. Um, how was your relationship with them?
Well, I was with Charles when I was a young man in Vacaville State Prison. I was sent there for a boxing program. They had a boxing back in the days when I was in prison. Every prison had a boxing program, and I loved it because I was the champ. So it was great going to prison and boxing. So I was sent to Vacaville for the boxing program, plus the fact that I had had a lot of shots to the head and I was a little punchy. But I grew up with Charlie. Charlie was 2 cells down from me on S Unit in Vacaville. And I've known Charlie. I knew Charlie for over 30 years. And I didn't see Charlie any different than I saw Juan Corona or Sirhan. Or when you're a lifer and you know that you're going to die in prison, who the fuck cares who you're with?
Hmm.
You don't care who the person is. I'm in this cell and I'm going to die in this cell, and you're going to die in that cell, as they all did, as Charlie did.
Hmm.
But they were just normal. Charlie was a creation of the media. Charlie Charlie couldn't bust a grape in a grape field. Charlie was the biggest coward and the biggest, 90 pounds soaking wet. What's he gonna do? But Charlie was a joke. Everybody just laughed at Charlie. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
So, as far as Manson, how do you feel about the crime, his crime, or his case, being that he wasn't even there? But do you feel like he had a strong influence, cult like personality?
no. Anybody that does their history, their due diligence, will know that Tex Watson was the mastermind. Tex Watson was the cold hearted beast bastard that killed a pregnant woman. That wasn't
Hmm.
Charlie. Charlie was 100 miles away in Simi Valley. I mean, anybody could say when push comes to shove, oh, Nicole made me do it. Well,
Hmm.
Nicole's like, I didn't do it. I was 100 miles away partying. It's your word against mine.
Hmm.
So I don't know. I know Charlie, and I'm after 40 years in the penitentiary of life and death situations. I know people, and Charlie was just a figment. He was. I mean, every time he'd go for an interview, he'd just come up to my cell and make a face and go crazy and go Showtime, Showtime, and when I watched him that night on TV, and he put on Academy Award. And he'd come back and say, "Is that a cat? Do I get an Academy for that, or a Grammy, an Emmy?" I go, "That was an Academy, but you got to dance more, get more." So it was a joke that we did every time he did an interview,
Yeah.
and that's who Charlie was.
So basically, his interviews were for entertainment value for him.
Yeah, he knew he was never getting out. I mean, I answered his mail, I wrote his mail, I returned his mail. I I have to admire Charlie for going to prison and going to every cell on every tier. And all the guys that didn't have a radio or TV, he would buy that for him.
Really?
Yeah, Charlie did not care about money. Charlie looked out for everyone. And you know, I've lost a lot of friends and a lot of associates and a lot of media because I've said that Charlie's my friend. But if somebody was to extrapolate and step back and just look at the situation, and if you knew Charlie, you'd understand that isn't in his makeup to do anything like that. And like he told me, I didn't tell that guy to do that. He did that on his own. You know, he
That's
said, "Hey,
interesting.
you want to come? We're gonna go kill some people." He goes, "No, I'm sitting here. I got 5 girls. I'm in an orgy and I'm smoking hash. You go take care of that. I'm good." And I'll never forget that my whole life when he told me that.
That's interesting because there's so many movies and
Yeah,
interviews and so many,
that sells. That
um
sells. I read articles on myself where in 2003 they said they had to hire a translator because I didn't speak English. And the
mm,
media are the same people that build you up, are the same people that sell you out. The same
mhm,
people that I took out to dinner, the reporters, are the same ones that turned on me for fixed fights. So
yeah.
you're as good as your last fight, and you're as good as money I put in people's pocket. That's how life is, my dear.
Did you take his death hard?
No, no, I'm happy he died. You know, he knew he was never gay. When you're doing life,
Mhm,
you know, something I wanted to tell you, Miss Nicole, is that I wanted to make a difference, and that's why I'm doing your show.
mhm,
I wanted people to know that you don't have to go to prison. And we don't have to put this thing I see on internet and TikTok, all these guys, all these gangsters, all these killers. Well, you tell me one of them. I challenge anybody on the internet today, anybody that sees me today, you tell me one man who has served 40 years in prison and is here to tell you about it. There's not one of them.
I
It's
understand.
not, and it's not glorifying it. I just tell people, imagine being in your bathroom for 40 years and coming out an hour a day for a shower or to walk the yard. That's it.
Yeah. And what about, Sirhan Sirhan? Who was he to you?
I feel that he refined me. You know, I was a homie from the hood,
Mhm,
and he told me, he says, "You're better than that. You're intelligent. There's something about you." And he started teaching me words. He would give me he would write down a word every morning, and the next day I would give him three examples of how the word could be applied, applicated to a sentence, and
mhm.
so he was a great influence in my life. He told me stay off the yard, stay off the drugs, put your ass in the law library, and fight your way out of prison. And I heeded his words.
That's interesting. What kind of person was he? He just seems so mysterious in interviews and all of
Um,
that.
he, he never. I was with him for 25 years. I was in the hole. I was doing an indeterminate shoe term. I served 15 years in the hole under an indeterminate shoe. They locked me up for gang affiliation. And I was with Sirhan, and he wouldn't speak to anyone. And he just observed people from afar. He never spoke. It's just that on lockdown, that because I was a juvenile, they would let me feed him. And so I started bringing him food, and we started talking, and he gave me things to read. I had never read the Wall Street Journal. I started reading the Wall Street Journal. Sirhan told me to pick a few stocks that I liked, and we followed him. So no, he's a very methodical man.
Mhm.
Um, just a very a thinker. He's a thinker. I mean, if he says two words or if he talks one time the whole day, but yeah, that's who Sirhan is.
Interesting. Did he ever speak about the crime, or he just kept, quiet?
No, that's another fallacy about people. When you're maybe when you're an inmate, not a convict, not a lifer. There's a
Mhm,
very big difference when you're a lifer than just some guy that's coming in and out doing a year or 5 or 10 or 20. When you're, I guess the best way to tell it, Miss Nicole, is when it's 1979 and you're 19 years old and you're not going to the parole board till 2020, you know?
mhm. I understand.
So it's different, and you don't ask another man what his crime is. As long as he's not a child molester or a baby rapist, I don't care.
Yeah, interesting. So, who was Michael Thompson to you?
Well, I knew Michael when Michael was in the life. Michael was the shot caller for the Aryan Brotherhood. Michael would have you killed. Michael was a killer. I mean, what else needs to be said? The man was the head of the Aryan Brotherhood. He had many people killed. And I knew him at the time when I was studying law. I was trying to file a writ to get out of prison.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, I was bankrolled by some of the leading. I had a program named B.A.D, B.A.D, Boxers Against Drugs, and
Yes.
I would do fundraisers for the children, and such as Edward James Olmos, Benny Urquidez, Bobby Chacon, Carlos, Emmett Smith, Debbie Allen. The list goes on, and so many people just said, "Hey, you know what? Enough is enough. We believe in you, so let's do this." And I put myself through a paralegal class after receiving my associate's and my bachelor's degree. And I put myself through a paralegal class, and with the helping of my friends, I had to put a writ together. And I had studied writs for my paralegal, but I didn't know how to apply them.
Mm-hmm.
How do I apply it? Is it a double or triple form? And nobody would help me, but Michael helped me. He said, "Hey, this is what you do. In fact, let me see it when you get done." And I was like, wow, man, I hope this guy isn't telling me that. Then when I bring it to him, he's going to kill me,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So you're always wondering if the same person that shakes your hand is the same person that's going to kill you.
Yeah.
But he didn't kill me. He helped me file it. I filed a writ. I found a writ, an obscure writ from 1943, which was called a writ of error quorum nobis. Um, and he helped me file it. And I'm free today, a lot having to do with Sirhan and Michael saying, "No, take this paragraph, put it down here, and instead of 16 pages, bring it down to 5 because you want them to read it. You don't want them to put it over there because it's too thick." And
Mm-hmm.
sure enough, as the day is long, I went back to court, and the judge said, "The reason why you're here today is because I wanted to have a lunch and I wanted something to read. And instead of reading," and he pointed to a stairwell of
Mm-hmm.
writs from prison with a plant on top. And he said, "Instead of reading one of those, I decided to read one of these. And it's called a Waverly. It's only like 5 pages.
Mm-hmm.
And this is who I am. I shouldn't have gone to prison. I was a juvenile. You sentenced me to 25 to life, and it's illegal." And he said, "And that's why you're going home." And I started crying for the first time in my life. And I was home that evening.
Wow. That's interesting. So Michael Thompson kind of helped you in the legal sense.
Michael Thompson helped me in the legal, and even though I had the legal, I had a problem with. Um, my problem was I wanted to tell my story, but I couldn't do it in a 30, 40-page writ. I had to do it in a synopsis. I had to bring it down and
Yeah.
just make it. And they heard it, and we filed it. I filed it over 70 times. Be-
Wow.
yes, because there's no limit to how many times you could file it. And every 3 months, the court would change. A different judge would be in a different courtroom. And I just so happened to run into a judge that followed my boxing career, knew the story, and
Wow.
I
Incredible.
can't just say, well, I can't just say Michael though. It's I
No,
had
no, yeah.
24 I had 24 hours. When the judge granted me that, I had 24 hours to come up with $1 million for an appeal bond. They dropped it down to 100,000 cash. And one of the greatest baseball players of our generation, a Hall of Famer, Paul Molitor,
Mm-hmm.
I called him up, and he put it on his credit card, and I was out of jail by midnight. And if
Wow.
I and if I wouldn't have had that bail, I would have had to sit in jail until the appeal was heard. So even though I was only out for 18 months, and they ordered me back to serve life again, it was nice that Paul Molitor and all my friends were there for me. That's why I smiled. And now that I'm old and I've served 40 years, and I mean, I have a
Definitely.
lot of bucket lists. I've never rode a horse. I mean, there's so many things I haven't done in my life, but to
Yeah,
be here,
definitely.
to be here talking to you is just the greatest.
Thank you. And it's great that you made those connections in during your incarceration. Um like I did see, your story on YouTube, and you had Daryl Strawberry, Emmett Smith, who else? You had so many people.
But we
Um
were doing
that were
positive things. It wasn't just
Yeah.
Joey. What it
Yeah,
was,
no,
what
yeah.
I thought I was never getting out. See,
Yeah.
that's the thing. I thought I was never getting out. So I just, in my mind, I had my next door neighbor was a kid named Rick Stevens. I
Mhm.
don't know if you've ever heard of him, but
No.
Rick Stevens served 35 years and he recently died of cirrhosis. And he's the guy that maybe you heard the song, You're Still a Young Man.
Yes.
That's Rick Stevens,
Okay.
Tower of Power. And he was my neighbor. And he was another one that said, you could do it, you could file it, you got to get out of here. And we were both chasing our freedom, not playing cards, not doing drugs. We were in the law library from 8 in the morning till 5 in the evening every day for years. And it paid off. And again, I'm free and I'm trying to make a difference. And I'm hoping that somebody that hears my story will say, wow, wow.
Definitely. And I actually saw kind of the reunion on Sean Atwood's podcast of Michael Thompson and you. Very emotional. Um,
Well, yeah.
yeah, definitely. So I also wanted to ask you, you saved a female prison employee from getting raped. Can you tell me about that story?
Well, that's where my life changed.
Okay.
Everything we're talking about, it all began with that day. The year was 1985. I was 25 years old. I was in the boxing program at the prison. I was the captain's clerk. I was settled in to know that I'm going to die in prison. So let me die happy. Let me grow old and die happy.
Mhm.
And I was boxing. It was the afternoon, and one of the guards, um, Officer Barajas, asked me to keep my eye on an officer. It was her first day on the job. I said I would. I fought that night. I was beat up pretty good. Came back, took a shower, and while I was in the shower, I heard a woman scream. And I came out the shower, and Charlie pulled me over, and Charlie had like crazy eyes, and he goes, "They're beating her." And I ran over there and I saw that two inmates had her on the table in the office, and one was fondling her breasts, and the other one was trying to take off her pants, and everybody was yelling, and it was like animals. And I just thought of my friends, and I thought of women, and I just took flight, and I, I took care of both of them, and I carried her to the door. I pressed her alarm and her button. The alarm went off. I carried her in the hallway, locked us in the hallway, and didn't realize what came after that. But yeah, that's you don't touch a woman and you don't touch a child. I don't care the baddest son of a bitch you want to be, you could be, but you never put hands on a woman. When I see since I've been out, and I see these shows and these videos of guys just punching girls, and it's sickening to my core. But
Mhm.
yeah, I saved her life, and uh, it almost cost me mine, but yeah, I did it.
So what happened to you after that?
Well, after I pressed her alarm and I was putting her breast back in her shirt, I looked and saw the gooners, the squad coming with sticks out, and I put one and one together and realized this didn't look good. Here I am over her with my hand on her breast, and they
Mhm.
proceeded to beat me and throw me down the stairs. And they kind of like just took turns beating me for a while till she came out of, till she regained her consciousness, and she told them the story. And now, the rest is history.
Yeah. So I understand you also had knee replacements.
Yeah, when they threw me down the stairs, my legs got stuck in the stairs and my body went forward, and I received a double knee replacement. Hey, it is what it is.
So when she regained consciousness, um, she obviously told them the truth. Then what happened?
Um, then they said, don't sue us. We'll send you to CMC, and we'll send you to somewhere, a level 2 facility, even though you're a lifer. And we thank you. And when you're eligible for parole, you'll get a heroic act, and you will be paroled when you're eligible. So, even though it was 1985 and 2023 was a long time away, eh, so I went to
Yeah.
CMC. This was before the internet, you have to understand, and before computers.
Yeah.
And they didn't put it in my file. And then a year later, in 1986, the same man who raped her uh, hit me in the head with a pipe, stabbed me in the neck, and
Wow.
left me for dead.
So my understanding is that that employee, that female employee, she actually tried to help you, correct? Writing a letter to
Oh,
the parole for you?
for years she did. For years. Evelyn Matson, a beautiful woman, beautiful lady. She, we exchanged Christmas cards, and, she told me how much it meant to her that I saved her, and she sent letters, and, but at this time, you have to understand, these were the 80s when a lot of people didn't even want women to be working in prison, let alone writing a letter for a convicted murderer.
Hmm.
But that's when the world took notice. That's when I did George Michael Sports Machine and Current Affairs and different shows, and I was up for a governor's pardon, but it was denied, and I was sent out of state. I was sent out of state. I filed a multi-million-dollar lawsuit against the Department of Corrections for negligence, and they sent me to G, Nevada, a level 1 facility with a golf course and a boxing program, and that's where I took off with B.A.D. And that's when I started representing athletes as their agent and promoters. I started doing baseball card shows, and I started promoting shows out of the Stardust and Flamingo from prison. And I know it sounds crazy, but if you YouTube Joey Torres, you could see the first interview I did when I was 25. I think that you saw that one.
I saw it. Yes, definitely.
I was 25 years old, and I had Boom Boom Mancini and Muhammad Ali and Sugar Ray Leonard and everybody coming to visit me. We were doing phenomenal things for the children. It wasn't just me.
Yeah.
In 86, when Darryl won the World Series, he gave me his jersey, which I sold for $40,000. I took bicycles for the homeless and the kids at the program, and Darryl and all the guys came up on Christmas, and we put 20 bicycles out in the visiting room with 20 backpacks. And I would have Emmett Smith. Emmett would go speak to kids, and we were just making a difference. And it was just, I thought that I was going to continue that when I was free. But I did more in prison than I'm doing out here right now. And it's very sad to me.
Hmm. So I wanted to ask though, how did that idea come about? You're sitting there in prison. How did you come up with bad?
Well, I came up with B.A.D because I had a friend named John Nadell. He was the editor of the Associated Press in Los Angeles at the time, and his daughter Stacy was doing drugs, and he asked me to talk to her, and I talked to her, and I don't know if it was me, and again, she's on the TV show, The Reporters on the YouTube, Joey Torres, and she's saying it. I saw what this man has done. I saw what he's done in prison, and And then another kid, Abel, came to me, and his father couldn't help him, and he spent a week with me at the prison, visiting me every day, and he's a father now, and he's a chemical engineer, and you know, I take pride in that. I've never had a child, but these are all my kids to me, because I feel that because of me that I made a
Yeah.
difference.
So do you think that you were being somebody that you needed when you were growing up?
Wow, that's prolific. Yeah. When you grow up and you're good at something, when you're 14 years old and you're beating grown men, nobody tells you that you're doing wrong.
Mhm.
When you're showing up for a fight and people are crowding the place and buying food from the vendors because they're coming to see you, nobody tells you when you're doing wrong. I had this conversation with Mike Tyson. I told Mike, man, he goes, yeah, man, nobody cared. They don't care. Nobody cares. When you're making people money and people getting something off of you, no one
Mhm.
cares. I wish there would have been somebody to say, hey, kid, no. But when you're winning, nobody tells you to stop. You can't lose. I don't know if that answers your question, but
Yeah. No, it does. Absolutely. So, take me to the gladiator days of prison. I know it was on
okay.
60 Minutes. I know it's an awful thing that was going on. I don't even know how it was able to go on that long. But can you tell me what they were? What were the gladiator days like?
Where do you begin? I'm a youth authority inmate. I'm doing that 5 years, and I'm sent to Tracy with adults. And I asked one of my homies and to send me some coffee, and he sends me a knife and says, "Be ready to get down." And it was get down every day. Every day was a get down. Every day I came out of my cell, that Pink Panther song came to my mind. Da-da, da-da,
Yeah.
da-da. Because you don't know if it's you. You don't know if it's the guy next to you, but somebody's dying today. And 40 years of that will tire on somebody. I'm so blessed and happy every day when I wake up and I say, thank you, Jesus. Thank you, God. All that I've been through, all the trials and tribulations. And I'm here today. And what could you tell? You have animals that are caged up, and the blacks attack the whites, and the browns attack the blacks, and it's a racial indifference from the beginning to the end.
Mm,
And when I see these shows on these sites of these little punks that have done 2 years and they think they're gangsters,
yes.
sit in a cell for 40 years and watch everybody you know die. And because you were a kid, you're the only one left alive.
So my understanding is the prison guards and the workers would orchestrate this, correct?
Well, you have to understand prison guards. I don't know what they make in Texas or New Mexico, but they're making six figures in California. Every
Mm,
Christmas, there'd be 3 or 4 bullets thrown over the fence, and that'd be overtime to lock everybody up, and double overtime on Christmas and New Year's. And it's all about money. It's all about money. They let out a black guy, they let out a brown guy, something happens, it's a race war, overtime, you know. It's bullshit. Prison is nothing but it's a financial gain. Everybody that's involved in prison makes money.
mm.
I worked in PIA making cabinets for 75 cents. I received $75 a month in pay, and they sold the cabinet I made for thousands. Who got that money? But prison industries is another. They do it in China, or they do it here in the U.S. too.
And they would make bets on who would win, and they would, I guess, and if the person lost, my
That should,
understanding was they would shoot him.
yeah, that was Corcoran. It was the same year that the Oklahoma bombing. Around the time Selena died, I was working as a lieutenant's clerk, and the officers, the woman that worked in the front office, they would take the lunch break, come up to the tower, the guard's tower. The guard would let out one fighter, he'd let out another fighter, and they would go to the yard, they'd lock the door, and whoever came out won, and whoever didn't would either get shot or get beat down. It was called the Booty Bandit Days. And I know it sounds obscure and bizarre, but if your listeners Google Corcoran Booty Bandit 60 Minutes, they could watch the whole thing. I was
Yeah.
involved in that, and I fought a few times, and yeah, it was madness. Yeah, it was Corcoran. The Gladiator days were something of wow, the memories that you bring back. Maybe,
Yeah.
like I said, maybe people will look it up online and see what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So, with all that being said, did you lose a lot of friends to that? With people you know, or
Oh,
acquaintances, or anyone really close to you?
everybody I knew. I had a friend named Tate. They shot
Mhm.
him in the head, and I had breakfast with him, and then they killed him. And that's very that makes you really go to the law library and read a little bit more, and really know you got to get out of here or you're going to die. I would still be there right now, this very day, this very minute, if I didn't apply myself. When you go to prison, you have a choice. Apply yourself, get stuck on stupid, ask your people for money, drain your family, uh, or you say, hey, I'm in this, I did this, how do I get above it? I have to educate myself. And I chose to educate myself and better myself because I knew that I shouldn't be in prison. And I'm very proud of the fact that I found a way to get out of prison that no other attorney could do. And I want everybody to know you could do anything you want to do. If I could get out of a life sentence after 40 years and be here talking to you, then don't tell me about you can't do something. If I could do it, you could do it. I sat in your bathroom for 40 years and came out an hour a day. So don't tell me you got it bad. Don't
Yeah.
tell me you got problems. And that's how I feel. When I hear
Yeah.
people snivel about stuff that is so mundane and so ridiculous, I laugh. I chuckle. I'm like, wow.
So, I also heard in different interviews also that you had connections to the Bonanno crime family. Do you wish to speak on that?
No. With all due respect, I'm unlike others. I'm not here to tell that story. I'm just here to tell my story. I won't tell
Okay.
on other people like so many others do. It's not in my cosmetic.
Okay. So, I also wanted to ask before we wrap this up, um, what would you like to accomplish now in your life? Is there anything else you wish to do? I know you gave back for years while you were incarcerated. Do you wish to continue that?
Every day that goes by that I'm not talking to kids, every day that goes by I'm not standing on a stage talking to somebody, telling my story, breaks my heart. I want to make a difference. I want to be talking to kids. I want to be telling people who better? Who better than? Remember when I tell you this, Nicole? I told you this when I first spoke to you. There's not too many human beings that are in prison
Mhm.
in the United States of America, let alone the world, that can sit here and tell you that they served 40 plus years. Remember, I went to prison in 78. I didn't get out until 2015. So, my goal, if I had one wish, if there was a wish that I could ask God to bestow upon me, it would be for me to be able to tell my story to the world, tell my story to those kids that want to go this way and say, oh man, look at this OG. This is the real shit. That's what it's about. That's the only reason why I'm here talking to you. I went through everything I just spoke to you about just for this question. I want to make a difference, and I know I can. I just want the opportunity.
Amen. And I hope you continue to get those opportunities and you tell your story because It's important, and the world's really messed up right now.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
So, with that being said, we will wrap this up. And I want to thank you for coming on. And I also want to do a second part to this soon because I know you have much
Whatever I
more to
could do,
tell.
Miss Nicole, whatever I could do to make a difference, I know the story. I know what I've been through. It's been a hell of a journey. It's been a hell of a journey.
Yeah.
But I'm here. And if we can make a difference, if you and me are together and somebody could see this and change their life, then it's all worth it. If we're just talking shit,
Amen.
we're just talking shit. So anything I could do for you, I'm here for you.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Always, always.
Thank you.
All right, my dear.